Hello, I'm James, and this is his story in me. We're in my little urban forge, which is in my garage, which is about less than 1 mile from the creek. I'd say, James, who are you? The first thing I would say was, I'm a nursing home administrator. And that's a horrible thing when I look back. I didn't consider the fact that I was a husband, a father, a son, the important things. Not anymore. What you see is what you get here. So, I did not grow up in the church, and I didn't know anything about grace. And what I did know is what I came up with on my own was that church and Jesus was for people who were good, and that was not me. When I went to college, I did all the things that college kids did. I joined a fraternity, tried to fit in, tried to find an identity. And so with that came a lot of parties and a lot of alcohol and the things that you normally would see, I guess, at a state college. But what I tried to do was impress my parents. I wanted them to notice me. I wanted them to see that this is something that I could do. What that turned into was huge opportunities, one after another. I excelled, and I was a workaholic, and it was something that just I needed to stay focused on because I didn't have anything else. And again, I was trying to impress people like my parents. I wanted them to notice me, and I was trying to develop this identity of somebody who was successful. And I really got caught up into that. I was in this environment where hard work was rewarded. It was something that was needed. So it was something that I thought that I was really doing well at. And again, with the promotion after promotion and the money coming in as much as a social worker could do, I met my wife there. And then instead of trying to impress my parents all the time, I was trying to impress her. So I took another promotion and another. And finally becoming an administrator, I thought that I had arrived. And basically, after 20 years of healthcare, after 20 years of working this crazy lifestyle of just doing everything that I could to fill this huge hole, things started to fall apart. Even though that we had a nice house, and even though that we had 3 beautiful children and a good marriage, it just wasn't enough. And so through all of this, alcohol continued to play a horrible role. And when I say that, I mean we're talking, a bottle of scotch a day. Even at that point, I didn't think I had a problem because I wasn't hurting anybody. On the outside, everybody looking in, everything looked fine. The majority of the people that I knew didn't even know that I was that kind of drinker. So fast forward, drinking a bottle of scotch every day and trying to work a high executive job wasn't working. So my career ended abruptly. It became too much as a man or as a human being. It was hard to breathe. I didn't know even how to take my next breath. At the point I realized that I could not take another drink, I didn't know how at that point to live. Up to that point, I was never afraid of dying. I thought that, after I realized that I was an alcoholic and it was going to kill me, that did not scare me, but what scared me more was that I didn't know how to live. And that weight, on top of everything else, was more than I could bear. Finally, as a man that was always raised as someone that had to pull up his bootstraps and get it done, I finally found myself crushed and broken, which led me to my knees. And I didn't do it because of anything else other than the fact that I didn't have enough strength to even stand anymore, let alone take the next step or breath. And so I found myself on my knees crying out to someone who I certainly did not know. And it was a simple cry. But I cried my eyes out, and I cried for help for the first time. And the good thing about that is that God hears all prayers. And when he heard me, he saved me. And it says in 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 2, I heard your cry, and I saved you on that day. And that day is the day of salvation. And that day was today. And that was May 12th, 2011. And the peace that I was always searching for came immediately. It was my day of surrender. It was my day of death. And that's the day that I received the Holy Spirit. To get to my shop and how James became a blacksmith and no longer a nursing home administrator, after I got more and more into the Word, it made a whole lot more sense to me when God said over 25 times, James, you need to work with your hands. This gentleman took me under his wing. He's a blacksmith in Peru, Indiana, and he said, James, I'll teach you how to blacksmith. He's been making knives for over 25 years. And it was wonderful to take something that's, complete raw materials and then make something of it. That was very interesting to me. And that also gave me an opportunity to do something where I could honor and glorify God. God gave me this business, and so I will always give him the glory that he deserves for giving me such a wonderful opportunity. And I'm never ashamed of my past. I'll never shut the door on it. I will always tell his story anytime that anyone asks. And like I'll always say, if he can save a dirtbag sinner like me who had no idea who he was, grace is for everyone. I talked about that earlier. I thought it was just for those that were good or those people that were at church. But now knowing that grace is for everyone as long as we are willing is a beautiful, beautiful treasure that I will always want to share.